Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the new moon in Virgo that happens on the 27th of August 2022. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you today. The chart you see next to me here, that's a snapshot of the sky at the moment this new moon is going to take place. I'm going to analyze the chart to see what the planets are doing, what energy they create amongst themselves, and how you can use that energy to your advantage. So that's the whole point of these horoscopes. I try and understand what's going on via the planets, and then how you can pick and choose the good stuff and avoid some of the potential pitfalls. So this new moon happens at 16 minutes past 8 in the morning, and that's based on Central European time. If you're in a different time zone, take that into account. But new moons and full moons, they're usually 3-day events because the moon moves quite quickly and it shuts down here in a way when it's a new moon, in the sense that the sun and the moon are conjunct. They're both at 4 degrees in Virgo here, and the moon is taking a break. It goes pitch black, it goes inward, and it's looking to rejuvenate itself, to kind of restore its energies. And it's also looking to manifest the future. So what am I going to put my energy into over the next 28 days? What's important to me, and what do I want to get done? So if you have a new moon in your birth chart, it gives you an energy of the pioneer, the person who operates independently, the person who's the boss, who kind of thinks for themselves. So every 28 days, we kind of get an opportunity to clear the decks and to say, okay, what's coming up next? I want to get organized, what's important to me. And if you do have that in a birth chart, kind of expect other people to look to you for instruction and leadership. So I think that's a good question to ask here during this new moon. What is it that I can take charge of in my life? Where do I have control? Where do I have power? And how can I exercise that strength in a way that's productive and constructive for me and for other people? So you can describe the moon as the thing that is easy to tap into via your feelings, and the sun as your conscious identity. It's what you're striving to become. Another way of looking at it is that the moon is your heart and the sun is your head. So when these two combine, obviously it gives you a lot of power, because if what you're feeling and what you're thinking are aligned, there are no obstacles. There's nothing distracting you from making progress. So it gives you access to all of your own inner energy. The sun and the moon here are at 4 degrees. 4 in numerology is about structure and security. In the tarot, it's the emperor. And that's quite a useful image, because the emperor, he has a 1, so it's fire. It's about my will. What do I want to achieve in life? And how can I use my strength, my authority, my know-how to get these things done? Usually the emperor also wears a lot of armor. So it's kind of like, I expect some challenges, whether it's other people or circumstances that I kind of have to fight through. I'm willing to endure that in order to get what I want. So this new moon, just via the degrees, demands as such that you create some order in your life, that you get things organized, and that you have something to kind of rely on, some sort of solid structure that you can go back to and say, oh, this is where I can decompress and relax. Virgo is an interesting sign. Virgo is an earth sign, and it's often associated with the nurse, because Virgo has this approach that if I learn enough, if I expose myself to enough information, then I'll get a sense of what's going on, what's right and what's wrong. And then I'm an expert. I have specialist knowledge. Virgo loves that. It also loves being right. It even assumes that it is always right, which isn't the case. And then Virgo says, okay, I have this specialist knowledge. How can I use that to be of service to other people? How can I use what I've got and what I'm good at to kind of nurse or support or help other people? And it does that from a sense of duty and obligation. Virgo is kind of like, well, you have this info for a reason, you may as well use it. It's very practical. It's ruled by Mercury, the communication planet. And Mercury is about perspective, ideas, how you see the world and how you interact with it, how you interact with other people, and really what the message is that you're delivering. And it doesn't have to be a verbal message. It can be what energy you're exuding, right? So Mercury rules Virgo, and it rules Gemini. So when Mercury is in Virgo, I always think of it as the switch is on the inward position. Mercury says, okay, time to download. Let's get as much information as we possibly can. Let's make sense of that in order to create meaning. Which again, I have to just pause. Virgo loves that. It loves things that make sense. It likes to feel like it's got its eye over everything and a sense of control through information. So with that said, if there are things in your life that are outside of your control, and that simply cannot be understood right now because the information isn't available yet, then don't torture yourself over that, because that Virgo new moon is going to say, I need to understand. So with Mercury and then this new moon in Virgo, there is the potential to gather a lot of information, to learn about yourself, to heal yourself, to learn certain skills, to go online and to research things, but to make your world bigger via information. So overall, with this conjunction of the sun and the moon in Virgo, order is everything, health and things being not controllable in the sense of I've got to run everything, but it's much more about I want structure in life that helps me to understand so that I can be useful. It's very earnest and it can be discouraged very easily because of that. So it doesn't mean you have to learn something on this day and then immediately turn it into a business, or you have to become the professor or the expert in that field. Manage your expectations and try and avoid anything that has to do with perfectionism or thinking in absolutes, either or. Gray is okay. Now, the interesting thing, if you look at this chart in the center, we've got this big red square, right? That's called a grand cross. I'll look at that in a moment, but that doesn't actually interact with the moon. The only thing that interacts with the moon is obviously the sun, making it a new moon. But then the only aspect pattern is this square between the new moon in Virgo and Mars in Gemini at 4 degrees. That's interesting in itself because you can see how many things are present in this chart. So for the moon to just create one relationship is really unusual, and it kind of gets my attention because it says this is a very, very specific new moon that is going to focus on one particular area. Now, the thing with Virgo, anyway, already gives us a clue that the focus is on information and understanding and learning and meaning. Mars is the planet of ambition and drive. It rules Aries, the first sign in the zodiac. And Mars is the god of war, was Aries in mythology. So it's very much about what I want. It's similar to the Emperor in the sense that I'm the authority figure in my life. I'm going to create what I like, right? Aries is more aggressive than that. It says, I'm not on the throne just yet. I need to fight my way to get to the throne, and then I can use my power and my influence. So Aries is very focused on conflict as a way to get something. So Mars influencing this new moon obviously means that there's a lot of drive involved now that comes from somewhere. There's a real need and a want for something. And Mars is in Gemini. So Mars in Gemini has this huge need to express itself, to make progress, to solve problems, to communicate, to share its ideas in a way that feels, what's the word? It feels revealing. It wants to be seen. It wants to make a contribution. It wants to be a part of. Gemini is also ruled by Mercury, right? So this is a very mercurial new moon, not in the sense that you're moody and all over the place, but in the sense that information is key. It's everything. Virgo is an introvert. It likes to sit in the library and study. And Mars in Gemini is an extrovert. It wants to be on stage telling funny stories and having the audience laugh. So immediately that creates a lot of conflict between, do I keep things to myself or do I express them? Tough question in any situation. You know, like if you're at work and there's something that displeases you, do you speak up and whistle blow and create a whole thing out of something, or do you just shrug it off and say, okay, I didn't like that, on to the next thing? So that's a big question. And because it's a big question, I feel that this new moon in Virgo can be too much of a good thing, in the sense that you're so duty bound and earnest, and you're undecided about what's my role. Do I just comply and go along with things and make sense of them in my own way? Or do I, puff myself up and take a leadership position here? It's a big question. But the fact is that the new moon and Mars, they square each other, right? So they're 90 degrees away from each other. And when there's a square in the chart, it's unresolved friction. It gives you energy, but it means you can't land on either side, introvert or extrovert here. That's what I feel is important to manage. And because we've got all this Mercury influence, The other obstacle with that, managing this, is that it gives you washing machine head. What I mean by that is that the spin cycle is on high and the thoughts are going round and round and round and round. And that's what I mean. This is too much of a good thing, because you can get obsessive with this desire to analyze, and it's like, oh, I need to understand everything, and it's just too much. And then the problem with Mars is that it's the war planet, right? So if you do express something, great, you have a lot of drive and energy to get your point across, to be very direct, to be forthright, da, da, da. But what comes along with that, the war planet, is that it can also veer off into major aggression. And that instead of just giving feedback, you just rip someone and totally decimate them with what you're saying. So it's a challenging energy. The vision I keep getting is steam coming out of someone's ears. So the good thing is that if there is frustration, if there's a sense that this isn't perfect, it's driving me up the wall here via the new moon in Virgo, at least there's a valve where you can release some of the pressure. So what I'm saying is analysis and detail is where it's at. That's what's going to put you in this boss position of the pioneer. If you get angry about it, that's something that needs to be dealt with. Or if you get angry along this process, that could really be self-destructive, that you throw all your toys out of the pram and all the progress you've made goes, disappears, right? So the analysis and making sense, yes, great. If you do run into emotional issues like anger or feeling defeated, then finding a way to let that steam out, to let some of the aggression go, is a good way to deal with it. So usually that's through exercise or through talking to someone, openly and honestly. It's through meditation, certain physical and spiritual practices that help decompress and relax you. It could be kickboxing in your case, whatever gets the frustration out. And also, obviously, the main thing, the biggest valve that's open in terms of let's release the anger here, is Mars in Gemini, which says, okay, I feel somewhat restless, irritable. Let's pick a villain in my life. Let's pick someone to completely unleash on. And then you can villainize someone and really let them have it in a way that's totally unfair and unreasonable. I remember I worked in an office in Manchester years ago, and it was coming to the end of my stay there, and I looked around at the office and I was like, do you know what? I've been irritated with everyone in this office. It's so weird. Like on certain days, someone has irritated me in some capacity. And it was weird. It was like an extra presence was in the office, and I could almost see it. It was like this anger went from person to person to person that had actually nothing to do with the person, but it was my irritability that almost took on a life of its own and just shapeshifted into different people. And it made me realize, like, wow, I'm the problem in certain situations. I'm not always right. So that kind of humility and understand, well, is it humility or like a slap on the face saying, you're not right, Greg? It's not like I had some enlightened moment here. But that kind of realization that you're not always right, now you don't always have a right to like rip someone, it's good because it'll just kind of allow you to cool your heels a little bit. So now I want to address the big red cross, right? Because this is significant. We've got Venus in Leo at 19 degrees. Venus is the planet of love, beauty, creativity at 19 degrees. 1 and 9 is 10. That's 1 in numerology. That's again the pioneer, the boss, the new moon. And it's at in Leo, which is, let me go on stage, let me lead, let me perform. So Viggo, who's Viggo Mortensen? Venus in Virgo wants you to be seen and to be heard. So it complements Mars, which says, hey, you've got an opinion, please voice it. So Venus says, yes, please do, but make it creative and gorgeous and lovely. It squares Uranus in Taurus and the North Node in Taurus. It also squares the South Node in Scorpio. And then those nodes, the South Node squares Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius then squares the North Node and Uranus in Taurus, and that's what creates this big red square. So a grand cross, lots of energy, but also lots of restlessness and irritability and a sense of, oh, what do I do? What do I focus on? So headmistress, the new moon in Virgo, is going to say, calm down, child. You need to do your maths homework first, and then your English, and then your German. So cool it a bit. One thing at a time is the way to win. But what's interesting is that Venus in Leo says, I want to shine in my own way. I don't know why I said it so weirdly, but that's what Virgo, Venus in Leo wants, okay? Then it opposes Saturn in Aquarius at 20 degrees. Saturn is society, it's the rules, it's what governs your life. In Aquarius, it's society. At 20 degrees, it's like, well, okay, whoever you are, George or Bob or Cindy or whoever, this is what you want to do. This is what you want to express. But please think about how this is going to come across. If you go up on stage and you insult the entire audience, they're not going to applaud, they're going to boo. Fact of life. So that's that conflict between, again, do I express myself however I want and be a free spirit, or do I make sure that I don't lose my job by expressing these views or opinions, or do I, I need to kind of reel it in a little bit if I don't want to cause problems for myself with other people. Introversion, extroversion, or having a desire to just speak freely versus the need then to censor yourself in order to maintain certain relationships. What also opposes is, so that's unresolved because in opposition, two things being 180 degrees apart, they're at fundamentally opposite ends of the spectrum, and it's like me or them. South Node in Scorpio with the North Node in Uranus, I feel like if we're looking at this in just a very, I don't know, like, the South Node is on its own. The North Node has company. It has Uranus on top of it. So I'm saying the North Node is stronger. That's just how I feel. The South Node in Scorpio says, hey, listen, you have come a long way. So just, you can rely on yourself. It's all right. Shh, calm down. It's all going to be good. The North Node at 16 degrees in Taurus says, hey, actually, no, it's not all going to be good unless you create something today with you being in the spotlight, going against society and saying, this is me, take it or leave it. So I don't know about you, but if someone had said that to me at 12 years old when I realized I was gay and they're just like, this is who you are, just come out of the closet, Greg. I would have been like, have you lost your mind? I'm going to be destroyed if I do that. So that's the risk, right? It's like, do I really want to expose myself truly for who I am and have a great time doing? Does anyone really expose themselves? I mean, it sounds kind of crude in itself, but what I mean by that is like, if someone's in the spotlight, right? They're in the spotlight for a reason, for something they've done. So either someone's a singer or someone's a politician or a great scientist or something. Usually it's not about this is who I am. It's about something I'm doing. So what I would then argue, and please feel free to disagree, is that this is an example of Virgo's short-sightedness, where it always says, I am right and my focus is beyond question. But now you can see via this example that the focus is completely off. It's saying, oh, this big question of this new moon is whether I'm an authentic person and I can put myself on stage and in the limelight. Whereas the reality is you don't need to expose every nook and cranny of who you are. Just pick something that puts you in the limelight if you want to get there and do it. Thanks, Virgo, for making this so complicated. Thanks for nothing. So, analysis in detail is all very good sometimes, but sometimes it isn't, like here. So this grand cross overall, do I put myself on stage solo? Do I do something outrageous and creative and something that I'll be remembered for? Or do I just play it safe and make sure everyone else is happy? The boss, mum and dad, the grandkids, and then the South Node in Scorpio. Yes, but what about my feelings? My feelings. I'm just thinking about that because to me, feelings have always been very important. Yeah, my feelings have always been very important. Some people don't care about their own feelings. They're like, oh, I wasn't that happy for a year or whatever, and then the next year was bad. For me, it's like, how do I get through the next hour? So that's another, I suppose, I'm a Virgo myself, so maybe that's another myopic focus on feelings. But I'm the one doing this horoscope. I'm the one who feels like my emotions are paramount at times. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, the South Node in Scorpio says, hey, listen, you owe it to yourself to be you because you're on this planet. And if you're not going to be remembered for yourself, then who are you going to be remembered for? It's all very heightened and all black and white, and it's like it's now or never. So again, I would just insert into this deliberately. I'm going to try and not take things so seriously, not go into anger, educate myself, and express myself creatively if that's what I want. But I'm going to keep my cool over all those things. Now, let's see what else is going on here. The thing that struck me, even though it doesn't connect with the new moon, we've got Jupiter and Chiron sitting on the descendant, Aries, in Aries at 7 degrees and at 15 degrees. Jupiter is the lucky planet at 7 degrees in Aries. This whole creative thing is an opportunity to heal yourself. You know, what was it? With me, I've been, I remembered something that happened to me years and years ago, like 30 years ago. And I'd blocked it out. And I remembered it and I addressed it and I made it a real thing. And it gave me such validation in the sense of, hey, I did this for me, you know? Like I brought this to certain people's attention in order for it to be highlighted and flagged because I want it to be known. It's that kind of thing. It's like I'm doing something for myself. So if you do have creative ambitions, I want to express myself, do it today. You'll create something that will be memorable. Whether it's amazing or isn't, it's going to have an impact. And then Chiron at 15 degrees in Aries, this is an opportunity to do self-healing. So that's one of the essential parts of Virgo, is the nurse. So nurse yourself into understanding and being creative as such, and avoid some of the unnecessary problems and conflict that just unbridled anger could bring into your life. There's no... Anger, as far as I'm concerned, is useful because it shakes everything up and you can change things. Like if I'm so frustrated with my life, the anger is something that inserts itself to blow things up to spite you. Let's say you despise your family, okay? Everyone's a nightmare. You go to some family function, you sit around the table, all 15 of them are there, you despise all of them, and the anger just builds and you just blow up. If you clear the table, it means that you're probably not going to have those kind of lunches anymore. If you're in a job that you've come to hate, but you keep doing it because you need the benefits and the pay and stuff, and then the anger builds and you just tell your boss how you really feel and you no longer have that job, it gives you the opportunity to change your work so that you can be happy. But there's nothing here that says you have to break free. The only thing that I feel could drive you a little bit up the wall is this constant spin cycle of my thinking going round and round and round. But anger isn't going to solve that. Practical action like being creative, analysis, exercise, meditation, those are the things that are going to calm you down. If someone does need an exit invitation from your life, then you can deliver that very easily on this day. But I mean, that's easy to do. What's not so easy to do is building long-term relationships that last for decades. That's the back and forth of this. I hope I've expressed that in a way that makes sense. If you'd like me to have a look at your birth chart, I draw up your chart same way as I do this one. I take your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth, and then I get a wheel like this. I analyze your chart the same way I did this, and it tells me a lot about you. I always say it's like a blueprint of your soul, of who you are. If you have any questions about your life purpose, your strengths, your weaknesses, family, finances, spiritual development, work, travel, hopes and dreams, institutions, friendships, anything at all, please do get in touch with me for a personal reading. Yes, if you go to gregoryscott.com, scroll down a little bit until you get to a button that says book your reading, click on that to order it. And then if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, please hit subscribe and share the video online, and also the little bell next to the subscribe button. Because once in a blue moon, I do go live and I pull one tarot card to answer people's questions. If you want to be notified of those, then click that bell. Hope you have a great time. Check out the weekly horoscope as well. I go through each day of the week until Sunday. So if you want to see what else is coming up, check that out. Have a wonderful time and I'll speak to you tomorrow. All the best.